Amelia Earhart, the vanishing point of aviation in the golden age of flight, one name soared above the rest, Amelia Earhart. A fearless aviator, a symbol of progress, and a pioneer who defied gravity and convention alike. But on July 2nd, 1937, somewhere over the vast Pacific Ocean, her voice fell silent, and the world has been listening ever since. Earhart's final journey began with ambition, a 29,000-mile circumnavigation of the globe aboard her twin-engine, Lockheed Electra. With navigator Fred Noonan by her side, she had already conquered 22,000 miles. Their last known departure point was Lae, New Guinea. Destination, Howland Island, a speck of coral barely visible from the sky. Radio transmissions grew faint, her final message, "We are running north and south." Then, nothing. Despite an unprecedented search effort by the U.S. Navy and Coast Guard, no trace of Earhart, Noonan, or the Electra was ever found. Theories emerged, some grounded in science, others in speculation. Did they crash into the ocean, lost in the vast blue? Or did they land on Nikomaroro Island surviving as castaways? Some even suggest covert missions and capture. Artifacts have surfaced. Bones, a piece of aluminum, a woman's shoe. But none have offered definitive proof. The mystery remains suspended in time, like Earhart herself, caught between legend and truth. And so, the question lingers in the jet stream of history. Did Amelia Earhart vanish into the sea or into something far more elusive? The Lost Battalion, trapped in the Argonne, in the final autumn of World War I, deep within the tangled woods of France's Argonne forest, over 500 American soldiers vanished from the battlefield, not into thin air, but into a pocket of history that still echoes with unanswered questions. They were part of the 77th Division, mostly young men from New York City, tasked with advancing through enemy lines during the Meuse-Argonne offensive. Led by Major Charles Whittlesey, the unit pushed forward under the belief that Allied forces flanked them on both sides. But the forest was deceptive. Unknown to Whittlesey, the French and American units had stalled, leaving his men isolated, surrounded by German forces. For 6 days, the battalion endured relentless attacks. Food ran out. Water could only be reached by crawling under fire. Ammunition dwindled. Communication broke down. Runners were captured or killed. In desperation, carrier pigeons became their lifeline. One, named Cher Ami, delivered a final plea that stopped friendly artillery from mistakenly shelling their position. Despite overwhelming odds, the battalion held firm. When relief finally arrived, only 194 men emerged from the ravine. The rest were dead, wounded, or missing. But even now, questions linger. Why were they left unsupported for so long? What intelligence failures led to their entrapment? And how did a group of under-equipped soldiers withstand such brutal conditions? The Lost Battalion was never truly lost, but the full truth of their ordeal may still lie buried beneath the leaves of the Argonne. Roanoke Colony, a settlement swallowed by time in the summer of 1587, more than 100 English settlers arrived on Roanoke Island, off the coast of present-day North Carolina, with dreams of building a new life. 3 years later, they had vanished, leaving behind only a single word carved into a tree: Croatoan. Led by Governor John White, the colonists included men, women, and children, among them Virginia Dare, the first English child born in the Americas. Shortly after their arrival, White returned to England for supplies, but war with Spain delayed his return. When he finally made it back in 1590, the colony was deserted. No bodies, no signs of struggle, just silence. Theories abound. Some believe the settlers assimilated with the friendly Croatoan tribe on nearby Hatteras Island. Archaeological digs have uncovered English artifacts in native villages, suggesting possible integration. Others suspect a more tragic fate: starvation, disease, or conflict with hostile tribes. The Dare Stones, a series of inscribed rocks allegedly left by Eleanor Dare, Virginia's mother, tell a tale of hardship and death, but their authenticity remains disputed. Despite centuries of investigation, no definitive evidence has ever surfaced. The Croatoan Archaeological Project continues to search for answers, piecing together fragments of pottery, tools, and whispers from the past. Roanoke was meant to be the first permanent English settlement in the New World. Instead, it became one of its oldest unsolved mysteries. And somewhere, beneath layers of earth and legend, the truth may still be waiting to speak. D.B. Cooper, the man who vanished into thin air on a stormy evening in November 1971, a man boarded Northwest Orient Flight 305 in Portland, Oregon, dressed in a business suit and carrying a black attaché case. He gave his name as Dan Cooper. Within minutes of takeoff, he handed a note to a flight attendant. He claimed to have a bomb. What followed was one of the most audacious crimes in aviation history. Cooper demanded $200,000 in cash and 4 parachutes. Upon landing in Seattle, authorities complied. He released the passengers but kept several crew members aboard. Then, with the ransom secured, the plane took off again, this time bound for Mexico City. Somewhere over the dense forests of southwestern Washington, Cooper opened the rear stairway of the Boeing 727 and parachuted into the night. He was never seen again. The FBI launched NORJAC, one of the longest investigations in its history. Over 800 suspects were considered. A child later discovered $5,800 in decaying bills along the Columbia River, confirmed to be part of the ransom. Yet Cooper's identity, fate, and motive remain unknown. Was he a skilled paratrooper or a desperate amateur? Did he perish in the wilderness or slip away to a quiet life under a new name? The case was officially closed in 2016, but the legend endures. More than 5 decades later, the skies over Washington still whisper his name. And somewhere, perhaps, the rest of that money waits to be found. The vanishing of Jimmy Hoffa on a warm summer afternoon in 1975, one of America's most powerful labor leaders stepped into a Detroit parking lot and vanished without a trace. Jimmy Hoffa, the iron-willed president of the International Brotherhood of Teamsters, was no stranger to controversy. His rise from a teenage warehouse worker to the helm of a 2-million-member union was marked by fierce negotiations, political clashes, and deep ties to organized crime. By the time he was released from federal prison in 1971, his sentence commuted. By President Nixon, Hoffa was a man determined to reclaim his influence. On July 30th, Hoffa was scheduled to meet 2 known mob figures, Anthony Tony Pro Provenzano and Anthony Tony Jack Giacalone, at the Machus Red Fox restaurant in Bloomfield Township. Witnesses saw him waiting. He even called his wife from a nearby payphone, but neither man showed up. Hoffa was never seen again. His car was found abandoned. No signs of struggle, no confirmed witnesses. Over the decades, the FBI has chased leads, from Michigan horse farms to New Jersey landfills, even beneath the old Giants Stadium. Some claim Hoffa was cremated. Others say he was buried in a steel drum. Yet despite extensive searches and alleged confessions, his body has never been found. 50 years later, the mystery endures. Was Hoffa silenced by the very forces he once wielded? Or did he fall victim to a betrayal cloaked in loyalty? The answers remain buried, perhaps literally, beneath layers of time, silence, and concrete. The vanishing of the Sodder children. On Christmas Eve, 1945, in the quiet town of Fayetteville, West Virginia, a fire consumed the Sodder family home. By morning, 5 of the 10 Sodder children had vanished, leaving behind no bodies, no remains, and no clear answers. George and Jenny Sodder escaped the blaze with 4 of their children, but Maurice, Martha, Louis, Jenny, and Betty aged 5 to 14, were never seen again. Authorities declared the fire an accident, citing faulty wiring, yet the Sodders had recently rewired the house, and the lights remained on during the fire, an inconsistency that raised eyebrows. The family's attempts to rescue the children were thwarted by a series of strange obstacles: a missing ladder, frozen water barrels, and trucks that mysteriously refused to start. Even more unsettling, no human remains were found in the ashes. Experts later confirmed that bones should have survived the brief 45-minute blaze. In the years that followed, the Sodders received cryptic messages, alleged sightings, and even a photograph of a man resembling their missing son Louis. They erected a billboard along Route 16, pleading for answers. Theories ranged from kidnapping to mafia retaliation. George Sodder had been outspoken against Mussolini, and threats had been made. Despite decades of investigation, no definitive evidence has ever surfaced. Were the children taken? Did they perish in a fire that left no trace? Or is the truth buried beneath layers of silence and time? The mystery of the Sodder children endures, etched into the landscape of a town that still wonders what really happened that cold December night. The Vanishing Notes of Glenn Miller on December 15, 1944, the air over the English Channel carried more than winter winds. It carried the final echoes of Glenn Miller's music as the famed band leader boarded a small military aircraft and disappeared into history. Miller, whose swing melodies like In the Mood and Moonlight Serenade defined an era, had traded the spotlight for service, joining the U.S. Army Air Forces to boost troop morale during World War II. That day, he departed RAF Twinwood Farm in Bedfordshire, aboard a single-engine Norseman aircraft, bound for Paris to prepare for a performance celebrating the liberation of France. He never arrived. The disappearance sparked one of the war's most enduring mysteries. No wreckage was found. No bodies recovered. Initial theories pointed to mechanical failure or icy conditions. Others speculated the plane was accidentally struck by bombs jettisoned by returning RAF bombers, a theory later challenged by flight records and eyewitness accounts. Decades later, historian Dennis Spragg uncovered a forgotten diary from a teenage plane spotter in Reading, England. His sighting revealed Miller's plane had veered off course, flying low in poor weather, likely sealing its fate due to fuel line freezing. Yet, the aircraft's final resting place remains unknown, and Miller is still officially listed as missing in action. Was it simply a tragic accident, or does the channel still guard secrets beneath its waves? As Miller's music continues to play, so too does the quiet mystery of his final flight. The disappearance of Harold Holton. A sunlit December morning in 1967, Australia's Prime Minister Harold Holt walked into the surf at Cheviot Beach and was never seen again. Holt was no stranger to the ocean. A seasoned swimmer and spearfisher, he often escaped the pressures of office by diving into the waters off Victoria's coast. But on December 17th, with the tide unusually high and currents swirling beneath the surface, Holt entered the sea with quiet confidence. Moments later, he vanished. The search that followed was one of the largest in Australian history. Helicopters, naval divers, and hundreds of personnel scoured the coastline. Yet no body, no clothing, no trace was ever recovered. Official reports concluded accidental drowning, but the absence of physical evidence left room for speculation. Some whispered of foreign submarines. Others suggested Holt had staged his own disappearance. A few believed he was taken by forces unknown, perhaps even willingly. Theories ranged from Cold War espionage to secret affairs and political escape. His widow, Dame Zara, dismissed the conspiracies. But the questions lingered. Why would a sitting prime minister swim into dangerous waters without protection? Was it a tragic miscalculation or something more deliberate? Decades later, the waves still roll over Cheviot Beach, indifferent to the mystery they conceal. And as time wears on, Harold Holt remains not just a lost leader, but a symbol of how even the most public lives can vanish into private shadows. The final journey of Michael Rockefeller, in November 1961, the heir to one of America's most powerful families, vanished into the wilds of New Guinea, leaving behind a mystery that has haunted history ever since. Michael Rockefeller, son of New York Governor Nelson Rockefeller and great-grandson of oil magnate John D. Rockefeller, was just 23 when he set out to collect indigenous art from the Asmat people of Dutch New Guinea. A Harvard graduate with a passion for anthropology, Michael was drawn to the region's intricate wood carvings and complex tribal rituals. But on November 19th, while traveling by catamaran with Dutch anthropologist René Wassing, their vessel capsized miles from shore. After clinging to the wreckage overnight, Michael reportedly said, "I think I can make it," and swam toward land. He was never seen again. The official cause of death was presumed drowning, yet whispers of a darker fate soon emerged. The Asmat region was known for ritual headhunting and cannibalism, practices rooted in cycles of revenge and spiritual balance. Some investigators, including journalist Carl Hoffman, uncovered testimony suggesting Rockefeller may have reached shore, only to be killed in retribution for a prior colonial raid. Despite extensive searches, no body was recovered. Dutch authorities quietly shelved reports, fearing political fallout. And the Rockefeller family, though persistent, found no closure. Did Michael perish in the waves, or did he become part of a ritual older than any map could trace? In the silence of the jungle and the rhythm of the tides, the truth remains elusive. The final transmission of Frederick Valentich on the evening of October 21, 1978, a young Australian pilot took off from Moorabbin Airport near Melbourne, bound for King Island across the Bass Strait. He never arrived. What followed was one of aviation's most perplexing disappearances. Frederick Valentich, just 20 years old, was flying a Cessna 182L on a routine training flight. With 150 hours of experience and a passion for aviation, he seemed confident. But at 7:06 p.m., Valentich radioed Melbourne Flight Service with a chilling report. An unidentified aircraft was hovering above him, moving erratically and illuminated by 4 bright lights. He described its metallic surface and a green light. Then his voice trembled. "It's not an aircraft." Moments later, the transmission was interrupted by a strange metallic scraping sound. No further contact was made. Despite an extensive search covering over 1,000 square miles, no wreckage was found. 5 years later, a piece of a Cessna engine cowl flap washed ashore on Flinders Island, possibly linked to Valentich's plane. Yet, the mystery deepened. Some theorized disorientation, others suggested a staged disappearance. But Valentich's belief in UFOs and his final words fueled speculation of something far more extraordinary. Was it pilot error, a tragic accident, or an encounter beyond explanation? As the Bass Strait continues to guard its secrets, the final moments of Frederick Valentich's flight remain suspended in static, echoing through time like a transmission waiting to be understood.